Matin va, everybody. Welcome to Crusader Kings, the Excel spreadsheet simulator where you can marry your daughter, seduce the Pope, and eat your son. The opportunities are endless, and today we explore one of my favorites, seeing how far we can get by only choosing the worst option when given any. The only catch here is that we are immortal, because I tried this as a mortal and lasted about 6 months. This is the story of Finn of Leprechaunia. Our story begins in the year 867, in the earldom of Thomond, a small piece of land in Eastern Ireland, which after the succession wars of the previous year fell into the hands of Finn, the exalted warlord, lunatic, immortal, brave, sadistic, strong, giant leader of the House of Leprechaun, whose motto was, "Catch the rainbow." But it's 869, so it's for the pot of gold, not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with gay, but 869. And as you can see, what they lacked in calendar accuracy, they made up for in progressiveness. The wars of succession in Ireland left the island split, but Chieftain Finn had a plan. He knew unity would only be achieved with a heavy focus on authority and by being a stalwart leader, for some extra prowess in battle. But alone he wouldn't be able to conquer all he wanted, so a marriage was set with the neighbor princess, Gormley of the High Chieftain of Meath, as he enjoyed slapping hams as well as backup from an alliance in case shit hits the fan. With the little prestige Finn accrued in the wars, he made it his first decree to improve the weak retinue of the earldom by tripling it in size. Such rapid decrees and changes to life, as everyone knew, would bring any sane person to the brink of madness. While I hold court, I keep getting distracted by everyone's resplendent garments, luxurious fabrics, jewels. Pah! Why must they try so? Do they not know I can see right to their cores anyway? Things would be easier if someone could just forbid clothing. Wait. Tits out, everybody! Clothes are not forbidden! Luckily, our intrepid leader was already a madman. A naked madman, with a naked wife, and a naked court. So you can imagine how popular the decision is with certain members of it. Ha ha, look at tiny Mr. Agent of Satan over here! Not a day passes without suffragan Bishop Flan making a mockery of me during his sermons. That obsessed fool is certain that I am an agent of Satan, and will not rest until he has turned the peasantry against me. The first difficult decision in Finn's reign, he knew he couldn't miss the mark on this. The future of his realm depended on the right call. The options rushed through his mind as the court laughed at his expense. Should he make concessions to the bishop and show weakness towards the church? Or should he show strength and play along with the "Who's tiny now, you old sack of shit?" A new bishop, Patrick, was appointed immediately after, and the chieftain started a scheme to sway his approval in order to mitigate the damages done by his acts against the previous one. South of Thomond lie Desmond, an even smaller earldom, with even less useful resources than Ormond to the east, but also a smaller army than Thomond, so a very obvious first target for Finn and his naked army. On the way out of the village, the chiefess comes with news of pregnancy, not surprising to anyone considering everyone's naked and hot. The first battle of Desmond goes swimmingly for our brave leader, netting him 75 fame, 236 kills, and 50% war score. Chieftain Kuchangel's army tried breaking the siege after the first crushing loss, but at this point, nothing could stop the mighty red mustache and free nipples of Finn, and the war for Desmond was over as quickly as it started, consolidating his control over the south of Ireland, and as a bonus, placing him as the culture head for the Irish people. But the good tidings of the year weren't over, and with the peace agreement came also his first son, Finn Shorthead II, aptly named after his father and his lack of cranial space. With over half of the de jure counties of Munster directly under his control, Finn was able to form a duchy to increase his influence and power, assuming he managed to stockpile 87 gold, and survive the illness that suddenly afflicted him. Wait, how is he sick? I thought he was immortal. Hold on, let me just check here. Yeah, immortal. Despite the feeble state in which his health allegedly was, his martial studies remained unaffected, and in a small book about a prince, our chieftain learned about serving the crown, increasing his dread and control growth, because it is better to be feared than loved. Especially now that Finn became Duke Finn of Munster. Besides the prestige it garnered, being a duke also allowed him to strong-arm his weaker neighbors into being vassalized by him, a process that takes time, but allowed him to grow his realm through quicker and cheaper ways. The first couple of years of Finn's reign were what most people would call a success. His borders grew, people feared him, and his army stood tall against the rest of the island. But Jesus didn't seem to be on his side, and he knew why. He was only married to one woman. Everyone knows a good leader collects wenches, like a Californian hippie collects yeast infections, so he went shopping for a second. His first option was Deirdre, but she was a peasant, and that would hurt his legitimacy. Ciar seemed like a good option due to a possible alliance with the Earldom of Ossory, but she was a newborn, and even Finn knew that is just too fucked up. Tired of wife shopping, the newly appointed Duke settled for Sina of the Elganacht Einecline. No alliances were set, but at least he wouldn't have to worry about being cancelled for child marriage. He waited for days for his new mail-order bride to arrive, just to be surprised by the chieftain of Athlone arriving at his doorstep to raid his capital and kidnap his brand new wife. He waited until the raiding party left, raised his army, and marched with fury to take back what was his. The battle was no issue for Finn and his band of lunatics, and the loot was recovered. Sadly, his wife was nowhere to be found, and after a month, the search and rescue teams were sent home, pushing him to study even harder for when the time for payback was nigh. This time, Bellum Justum was the topic trending, for cheaper casus belli. At the moment, no one laid claim on the Kingdom of Ireland, but Finn couldn't either, for he needed to hold at least 5 more counties and 1 more duchy, and his neighbors still didn't see him as his rightful liege. Maybe with a makeover, he thought around the summer of 872, and changed the name of his duchy to Leprechaunia to better express what he meant to follow his leadership, alongside an official color change to purple, conveying royalty just as the leaders of the Byzantine Empire did. Powerful alliances took place all over the island, forcing Finn to focus on more mundane tasks, such as swaying his future vassals, expanding infrastructure in his capital, and studying chivalric dominance for higher knight effectiveness. Around the same time, his firstborn started his studies, and Finn took him under his wing, although the chroniclers referred to Finn learning more than he taught, even getting inspired to never back down, giving him substantial advantage in battle and fewer casualties. On a broader look at the political state of the British Isles, everything was a fucking mess. The Danes took over Northern Ireland, Sweden carved Ipswich for themselves, and Scotland changed their name to celebrate Jessica Alba. Finn had a lot of work to do, after finally meeting his new wife, Sina. The plan to sway Chieftain Dunshad's opinion worked wonders, and he finally accepted the offer to serve under Finn, although not for free, and he requested a council position. Thankfully, his intrigue abilities were alright, and the Duke had no problem fighting Tits McGee Tomnat with dreadful skills in order to appease his new vassal's wishes. While he was tangled up in HR issues regarding the personnel change, the Earl of Leinster sent a raiding party towards Finn's capital, but in quick response, the Duke's army was ready to ambush the raiders, resulting in a quick massacre just outside the city's palisades. A move that would prove to be one of the High Chieftain's Hairball's worst lapses in judgment during his rule, as Duke Finn pounced at the opportunity and declared war for the county of Ossory straight away. The Leprechaunian army marched directly towards the fort in Ossory and set up the siege, unaware that the Lysterian army had the same idea for the duchy's capital. A race began for which defenses would fall first, with both falling virtually at the same time, forcing Finn and his men to rush back to intercept the enemy just outside of Ennis. The armies were balanced in size, with the Lysterian army having an edge in champions, while the Leprechaunians prevailed in raw numbers. A quick pause in the fighting happened for Finn to name his second son, this one being born from his second wife, and due to the similarity to the first one, was called Finn Shorthead 2.2nd, or 2nd.2nd. Chroniclers aren't sure how it was pronounced. The fighting resumed, and the Lysterian side routed, opening a clear way for the Duke to march directly towards Leinster. While marching towards this target, Finn read a man's home, helping him increase control territory defender advantage. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Just outside of the city, the army prepared to engage in combat against the remaining Lysterian soldiers, when news came out to Finn. The insular world was shocked to learn that my Bishop Patrick has been embezzling the money that his followers gave for charity, repurposing it for his own personal use. While scandals among the clergy are nothing new, it is disquieting for one to occur so close to home. The Duke had to make a choice. The people needed an answer from their liege. The choices haunted him. Should he defend the bishop after so much time fighting for his endorsement? Should he remain dickhead? You're a dickhead! Church endorsement was not an issue for now, for battles were nigh. And as another victor was marked on his tally, the siege of Leinster began. The enemy tried to outmaneuver the ducal army and strike behind their lines, but he was too late, and the demands were enforced, and his son was set free, because apparently he was captured and no one noticed. But Finn couldn't help but think about the cruelty that is imprisonment. Finn was on a roll, and Leprechaunia grew faster than giant kelp, which can grow up to 60 centimeters a day, although it grows on average 27 centimeters. He didn't want to lose momentum, and while scouting for more targets, it became known that the Earldom of Dufflin was at their last legs after being abandoned by their Norse allies, and a holy war was being prepared for the county. A plan that was quickly scrapped, as Finn was aware that the Satra leaders would come to their rescue, so instead a normal declaration of war was sent to the chieftain Ivar. Because of their teeny tiny remaining forces, the Leprechaunian army was able to storm in and execute the remaining soldiers, besides Urm, the coward who ran away at the peak of the slaughter. The siege was set, and because there was no garrison to defend Dyflin, the Duke opened yet another book, Enduring Hardships, which taught him about stronger forts and plague resistance, among other nifty little skills. Never leaving his side, Finn's firstborn wanted to aid his father with everything he could. Following the death sentence of a lowly thief who lurked the camp, I asked my son and heir, Finn Shorthead II, what he thought. He claimed he had learned the lesson about not reaching for more than one can handle. Finn was confused about what he meant by that. A man had just been executed, and despite enjoying the show, he wasn't sure how to answer to that. Should he agree with the boy about overreaching, or take the time to explain,
God is dead, and none of this matters, boy!
The siege ends smoothly. Jarl Ivar is defeated, and Dyflin switches names to Dublin as he joins Leprechaunia. The Duke knew he wouldn't be able to keep control over so many cities, and grants Dublin to his marshal, for he had done a stellar job, and more was needed of him. Connacht, just up north from the rising purple star on the map, had just finished defending themselves against an invasion, and were weakened, a perfect opportunity for a quick land grab in Uemain. What was seemingly called the First Army of Ennis marches through the border directly to the fort in the disputed region, and although intercepted by the enemy forces, has no real challenge starting the siege, just to be attacked once again by the enemy, to no avail, and once again, a third failed assault, and also a fourth time, an action considered honorable, if not stupid, by every commander in the Leprechaunian army. The repeated attempts to break the siege served only to delay the inevitable, the earldom of Uemain falling under Finn's control. The newly appointed chieftain requested a council position, and a little to his merit, and much to his luck, he knew how to handle money better than the dipshit court steward with just one steward point, so personnel changes were made again. Your nakedness, we have uncovered a plot to kill you, although we are not sure who is behind it. Finn looks surprised, and starts thinking to himself,
I wonder, who could it be?
Leprechaunia continued to prosper and grow, but Finn, being the martial scholar he was, continued to study how to improve himself. This time with books on prepared conscription, a series he imported from Khazaria on how to lower the army gold maintenance by up to 15%, and increasing his friendly territory levy reinforcement rates by 100%. Just as he finished the final volume of his series of books, commotion arrived at his feet at the throne.
What in the world has happened to my son, Finn Shorthead II? He's all bruised and beaten, and he refuses to name who did this to him. Was it an older child, or did he pester a noble to the point of fury? If so much as a pin drops, Finn Shorthead II will be running for the safety of an empty closet. The poor boy seems to live in constant fear.
His thoughts rushed past one another as if they were step horses avoiding a fire. Should he hide from danger? Should he avoid conflict?
There are enemies everywhere, boy! Nowhere is safe! No one is your friend! The beating was just the beginning.
The Duke sat down after the bonding moment he had with his firstborn. Stress seemed to start taking over him in ways never imagined before.
Why must I do everything myself? How can I be expected to manage the affairs of Leprechaunia when one half of my court is incapable of following orders, and the other half doesn't even understand them?
He pondered how could he manage this new tension. Perhaps he would just have to endure it all. Ever wondered from where Ireland's alcoholism stemmed from? But at that stage, very little mattered, for Duke Finn was invited on a short holiday hunting trip by his spy master and vassal, Chieftain Dunchad. Excitement was at an all-time high for the Duke, and despite some hiccups on the journey, the party arrived at the hunting grounds. As the hunt began, Finn strayed a bit far from the group. Unsurprisingly, the hunt bore no results, and the Duke and his entourage went home empty-handed. Even with all the joy of his own quarters, everyone knew it was just a matter of time until conquest was back on the menu, for he had not forgotten what the Lystirian had done to his second wife and son years back. War was declared, and the army sent towards Leinster while Finn started teaching his second son. The army was ambushed by a small band that was first thought to be just highwaymen, and later identified as the last remnants of the Lystirian forces, trying to stop the Purple Impetus, as they were called in the region. A champion was chosen to replace his recently deceased chancellor, and his war studies progressed further, this time with an Iberian scroll on strict organization, which helped increase control in counties by 20%. The conquest of Leinster was complete, and all of Southern Ireland belonged to Duke Finn. On more personal aspects, with the most recent conquest came also the maturity of his firstborn, a day much anticipated at the court, for it was the latest opportunity for another strong alliance, of which Verona was the chosen option. The Duchy of Leinster was finally in Finn's hands. The path towards the crown of Ireland was as clear as it could be, with only the gold requirement still being missed. The realm's gold income wasn't anything that great, but nothing much could be done besides studying further into hard rule for higher dread and lower chances of revolts, and waiting for the coffers to fill up. The time had come for Finn. His legacy was about to grow, uniting the whole island under his crown. After naming his third son, the great Finn Firehead 2.3rd or 2.3rd, no one knows what went on his head at the time. Vassal offers were sent to independent powers of the region immediately after, and the banner of the High King Finn of Leprechaunia stood over virtually every corner of the island. The end. Or well, end of the first chapter of the book. This was silly. I know, but everything we do here is silly. I don't know how to end something like this without giving it time, so it took about an hour and a half to create the kingdom, if that matters to anyone. I don't know how well this video will work, but if it does and there's demand for more, just let me know, cause I read the next chapter, and Finn actually forms an empire. Also, there is a form in the description if anyone wants to give feedback on the video. Asking for likes and subs is super lame, but asking for your opinion and feedback is super cool. Like, pretty cool. Cool as a cucumber. Yeah, very cool.